I hereby summon all my imps. Hey everybody, it's Annabelle. There are a lot of cards that kind of came out today. This will be the second review that I'm doing for Hearthstone today. So we're going to go through and start where I stopped last time. The first card on my list is going to be Rotten Rodent, and I have to say that very slowly. Because it's kind of like being a rodent, or rotten. So, Rotten Rodent is a 2-mana, 2/1 Undead Beast. So this is one of the things that everybody's kind of forgotten about, but just want to bring back up. Creatures can have multiple creature types now. So this will be considered both an undead and a beast. And what this does is reduce the cost of all Death Rattle's cards in your hand by 1. It's a nice card, it's a starter card, it's got a slight upside. You might just need it for the undead that you're going to be using. I don't think Rogue cares about beasts right now, but the undead's going to make this just see some sort of play somewhere. So, if you're playing any kind of Death Rattle deck, you're going to try to squeeze this in. You get 2-3 Death Rattles in your hand, this will help it out. Yeah, late game, this becomes useless, but so do a lot of 2-cost cards. You can't throw that against this. So I'm going to give this early game fine, mid game meh, late game ew. Next one up for us is going to be the Scourge Illusionist. Scourge Illusionist is a 4-mana undead rogue card that has Death Rattle at a 4/4 copy of another Death Rattle minion in your deck to your hand. It costs 4 or less. This is going to make some Death Rattle cards very scary. This turns an 8 into a 4, and that's scary. And there's some Death Rattle 8s that you want to play. There's some Death Rattle 7s and 6s that you want to play. And with the other rat in here, you can lower this. You can lower what you get off of this. I mean, you can have some big stuff hit the board very early on in the game. And that's specifically why they made it so it couldn't catch itself. And if you do get a 4, it's a 0 drop. So reducing something by 4, having something come out that's 0 is always scary. So I'll give this beware of a 0. Okay, now we start to get into some of the priest cards. If this card would load, that'd be great. First priest card that we're going to talk about today is going to be Animated Dead. Animated Dead is a 1-mana shadow spell. Priest is going heavy shadow this time around. I think every spell they get is shadow this time around. So Animated Dead resurrects a friendly minion that costs 3 or less. Now, it's great when you catch the 3. The problem with this card is when you catch a 2 or you catch a 1. And the later on in the game that you go, the more likely it is that you have 1s and 2s and maybe even 3s that you don't want to catch on this. I mean, bringing anything back isn't the worst in the world, but you're always looking to get your 3 off of this. And it's kind of a balancing of act of, do you want a card in your hand that's good later on in the game, or do you want a card that you want a 3rd copy of that you used before? And can you kind of adjust your deck so that you kind of high roll this? I mean, that's something that you're going to have to play with. So I'm going to give this 3 is good, 2 is meh, and 1 is blah. Next up for us is Bonecaller. Bonecaller is a 4 mana 2/4 for priest. That's not undead, mind you. And it has taunt, Death Rattle, resurrect a friendly undead minion that died this game. This can be incredibly fun, incredibly useful, incredibly scary, because you can put down a scary undead any point in the game and know that you're getting it back with this. You want a very mean undead, because this itself is not undead. So if you have a mean undead that you want back, this is going to bring it back, regardless of where it is. So if you got like 2 undeads that are hard to get past and then they die and then you bring this back, it brings out a 3rd one, and this next one's going to bring out a 4th one. That's a lot that happens to try to get through sometimes. So I'll give this a, there's some parts of me that wants it to be undead, and there's some parts of me that's glad it's not. There's some parts of me that's scared it's not. Next up for us is the Haunting Nightmare. Haunting Nightmare is a 3 mana 3/3 that's undead for a priest that says, haunt a card in your hand. When you play it, summon a 3/3 soldier. That's kind of interesting. That's kind of putting a hand buff on a card. And it doesn't say creature. It does say haunt a card in your hand. So it's a 3/3 that later on can summon you another 3/3. And if you get it on a spell, that can be just interesting to have a 3/3 show up from a spell that you just cast down the road. I mean, it's not bad. It's undead. I don't see the flaw in it. I don't see how it's the best card in the world, but I don't see the flaw in it either. I'm assuming the soldier's just a regular soldier. So if it's an undead soldier, that might make this better, but that might make this worse. I mean, this isn't a card that you want to grab off the last card, because it's not that great. But it's not that bad of a card, so you kind of have to balance that out too. So you're going to have to watch how many undead you're running. Next up for us is going to be the Mind Eater. Mind Eater is a 2-mana 3/2, so kind of river crack with sets, that adds a copy of a card in your opponent's deck to your hand. General Steal, General Thief, General Priest has done it 1,000 times before. Priest doesn't care what it steals. It's one of the few classes that doesn't care what card it gets. Even bad cards are okay for it, and it can do okay with anything it steals pretty much. So Thief Priest says hello. Next one up for us is Grave Digging. Grave Digging is a 4-mana shadow spell, which draws 2 cards and costs 1 if a friendly undead died after your last turn. Now, I've been told that this card works if an undead died on the turn that you attack on, or between the turn you attack and the turn you draw again. If that is true, a lot of these cards become better, because the way these are written, they're written that the only way they work is if an undead died after your turn and before you draw again. So if it is that you can lose undead on your turn also, a lot of these cards that say if an undead died last turn or between your last turn become a lot better. So this is, again, another Arcane Intellect for Priest. If this works the way I think it works, it's going to see play as long as it's in game. If this works, that you can trade in an undead on your turn and it'll still trigger next turn, this is going to see play as long as it's in play. As long as this is in rotation, it's going to see some sort of play. You'll figure out sticking in one undead just to make this work. It's not the best, but if you can get this to work at all, because if you let one undead die, it doesn't reduce it by 1. This doesn't become an Arcane Intellect. This becomes a 1-mana draw 2. This is kind of like a Feast and Famine of a certain degree. Or if you don't have the undead, it's cost 4, which is 1 more than Arcane Intellect. But if you have the undead die, this is way better than Arcane Intellect. So I will give this, if this works the way I think it works, it'll see play going forward until it runs out. Even if you don't run anything else, you might try to squeeze an undead just to make that work. It's not that bad to squeeze in a few undead. And 4 isn't the worst thing to have happen to it. I mean, it's a worse Arcane Intellect, but the Priest needs draw bad too also. Next card up for us is Shadow Word Undead instead of Shadow Word Death. It's Shadow Word Undeath. So this deals 2 damage to all enemies, so basically your consecration. If a friendly undead died after your last kill, deal 4. So this is either consecration or flame strike. It's 1 more expensive than consecration and 2 less expensive than flame strike. So it falls right between consecration and flame strike if you think about it. So it's going to be a board wipe a lot of times. You're going to get a lot of stuff down. The problem is, there are so many things in Hearthstone that have 5 for some odd and inexplicable reason. 4 just doesn't kill like it used to. That's why Flame Strike got buffed up to 5. I almost kind of wish it would do 5 if you, 3 more if you had the Undead die, so it would do the Flame Strike. Because there's going to be so many times where you play this and your board's just not going to be down, and you're almost better off playing Clean the Scene or Cleanse the Scene or whatever it's called. So, I will give this a, not bad, but 5 is the health of a lot. Next up for us is Undying Allies. Undying Allies is another shadow spell that's 0 cost. What it does is after you play an undead this turn, give it reborn. 0 cost spells have always seen some sort of play. There's never been a 0 cost spell that hasn't seen some sort of play. If nothing else, you're just weaving this in for a shadow spell. You play this down, and all of a sudden, any undead that you play this turn gets reborn. That is so worth it. I mean, it doesn't count for things that you summon, but it counts for anything that you play. You're playing this when you have at least an undead in your hand. If you're not playing this when you have an undead in your hand, it's a waste, but there might be times where you don't even care. The triggers when you play a 0 cost spell, you can find something else off, and sometimes you just need the spell power or whatever, or to start the chain. I mean, 0 costs spells have always seen some sort of play somewhere along the way. I'm not sure where this is played, not sure how this is played, but this is seeing some play. Next up for us, and the last card for us to talk about today, is going to be White Cultist Baptist. What White Cultist Baptist is a 5 mana 3/5. That's not undead by itself, but it's your Undead Finisher. It's your payoff card for playing undead. And what it does is it resurrects all friendly undeads that died after your last turn. The problem with this is you need an entire board of undead for this to really pay off. If you have like 2 undead die, is this really worth it? It's not. I mean, you need like 3, 4 undead, and they need to be like good undead. Like, you're not looking for 1/1s to come back off of this. And this isn't quite your Reform in Warlock for undead. I wish it was an Reform for undead. That'd be kind of a neat ability. Or it would resurrect, 4 undead or 5 undead or 6 undead, or resurrect up to 6 undead that died this game would be really awesome. But it's good when you have a board that it works off of, but I think you're going to find times where, like, you lose some undead, but you don't lose enough undead, and this is going to feel awkward. And then if you wait a turn, this doesn't work, because it only counts for what died last turn. So do you play this down after a turn where like 2, 3 undead undied, but they weren't your greatest, just to get them back? Or do you play this when you hope to get a better board, and that better board just never comes for you? I mean, 5 isn't the hardest to get to. It's not endgame stuff, but 5 is not the easiest to get to either. You need a good board for this to die. So I will give this a big board, scary boom, small board, scary meh. So that will take care of the 10 cards that have come out since we have last talked. There are a few cards left to go over, still left. I'll be doing them as they come out 10 at a time, as always. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, remember, play for fun.